It's much more fun looking at it this way. It was rather too exciting at the time, wasn't it, R2? Don't get technical with me, R2. Just hurry up and tell everyone how the film was really made.
Welcome to Live Action Star Wars. I'm Ralph.
I'm James.
And today we are discussing the making of Star Wars as told by C-3PO and R2-D2.
My first thing is that video case looks way too new and nice for the age of this documentary.
Listen, when it comes to Star Wars, I keep my stuff in really good condition.
That's amazing.
It's
How old is that VHS?
This is from right before special edition, so THX. This is 1995, so it's kind of late in the run. It's like maybe 2 years before.
It's the power of the force of VHS tapes. Right.
It came out at that time where they did the THX version. This was a mail away with cereal. You got this free.
Nice.
If you sent in proofs of purchase for cereal. Something I want to mention right off the bat concerning this version, the 1995 version, is narrated by Don LaFontaine.
Okay, they did a different narration on it.
Yeah. So for those of you who know, Don LaFontaine is a voiceover artist, and he is also the voice of trailers, like any trailer that you heard in like the 80s and 90s. He's essentially the inner world guy.
Yeah.
And this is kind of cool. I don't know if you could see this, but it says, I can't focus on it.
Not for resale?
It's free, not for resale. It's kind of cool. I never noticed that.
Yeah.
And then it's got the cover of this. So if you're listening to this podcast, go to liveactionstarwars.com, watch the video, because this tape is so cool. It's that THX classic half Vader helmet design that you've seen, but they taken it and it's a blueprint. It transforms into a blueprint that shows them like designing this cover. And it's perfect for making a Star Wars. So Don LaFontaine, I'm more familiar with this version because I used to watch the tape. Because I don't know if I definitely didn't catch this on the air in 1977 because I would have been months old, less than a year old, because I was born in February 77. So I'm used to this Don LaFontaine version. There's the William Conrad version, which is the original narration. Now, if you go to liveactionstarwars.com, I put both versions on our page, so you can pick which version you want to hear. I prefer the Don LaFontaine version because William Conrad is a little intense.
I'm guessing that I watched this yesterday, and it was I think it must have been the Don LaFontaine episode version.
Oh, really?
I think it must have been. The voice sounded familiar to me, so I'm guessing it was the trailer guy.
You know the classic Star Wars trailer or for special edition, where it shows the TV screen and it said for years this was the only way to experience Star Wars.
Yeah.
And then the X-Wing comes out and it's like it shows the full screen widescreen version.
Yeah.
That's Don LaFontaine. And then he also, I want to say, kind of became the voice of Star Wars. Like anytime there was any sort of promotional material,
I think he did like adverts for video games and stuff, even like
yeah. William Conrad is a little bit, he seems like harsh. He almost has like a Darth Vader vibe to him.
It may have been because the version that I watched was ripped from Laserdisc. It had like a Laserdisc intro.
Oh,
so
really?
It might have been the old one. It might have been the old version. I'm not sure. I watched this yesterday as we were recording this, and I just Googled it and I just watched whichever one looked like it was the best quality. I think it was on Vimeo or something.
If it's Laserdisc, I could see it coming out the same time as this tape.
Would make sense.
It might be Don LaFontaine.
It might be, yeah.
Same narration though. I don't believe they changed the script at all.
Okay, interesting. Okay, cool.
But I love this documentary, and it feels like a cash grab. It feels like okay, Star Wars is fucking huge.
Yeah.
And this is just after one movie, which I love.
Yeah.
And CBS, I believe it was on CBS, It was
Okay.
like, we want a Star Wars on our TV. We'll get huge ratings, and it feels like that's what this is. There's
This is
not a
before
lot of
Fox
making
was
of.
a network, right? I'm guessing.
Right. Correct.
What year did Fox launch?
Like 89, like around
Okay.
when The Simpsons started.
Really late. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
even
CBS
the
would
old-
make sense. The old
even
VHS have
VHS
CBS
tapes
logo, don't
were.
they?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this it's they call it the making of Star Wars, but it's not really a whole lot of how they made it. There's some stuff in there.
Really light. It's really light.
It's-
So before we actually recorded, before I sat down to watch this, I was sure that I'd seen this before. Like not
Right.
for a long time, but I've never seen this. I had never seen this. The stuff of R2 and 3PO in their very Doctor Who looking set.
Right?
I
I mentioned that on the last episode. It looks like a Doctor Who set.
It looks so much like a Doctor Who set. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it was reshot. Like if it was shot over here, then it probably was a Doctor Who set. I don't know. But it's
Right.
it
There's
was
even
amazing
something
to
that
me.
looks like a TARDIS console with like a bubble over
right
it.
in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything about it. And I doubt it was Golden Tony in the suit as 3PO, but then Anthony Daniels will do anything with C-3PO.
It does, but it does say Anthony Daniels does get a credit at the end.
Okay.
As Anthony Daniels as C-3PO and R2-D2 as himself. Now, that's the first mention of Anthony Daniels in this documentary.
Yeah.
The rest of it
they
leads
are
us to believe that C-3PO is a robot they built.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
everything
not a person in a suit. And I'm like, holy shit. Because they do the montage of all the problems they had with all the droids they created. They talked about creating so many robots. And in that montage, they show C-3PO falling over and then picking him up.
Yeah.
Like,
but never
like
them putting Anthony Daniels in the suit or anything like that. Like
no.
It's
They're trying to dupe us to believe
C-3PO. Yeah.
he's a real robot that they built. No.
So I mean, maybe it was, and knowing him, and that seems like the sort of thing that he'd love at the time. Especially, he would have probably been like, "Oh yeah, no, keep them in the dark, let them believe it." Because one of the first things that we see in the documentary is the droids and Vader getting their footprints in the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Right, they're still there, by the way.
Oh, I've seen them. I've been there, not since 1993, but I have been there to see them. And yeah, it's crazy to think now that they are twice the age that they were when I saw them.
Right. What's hilarious about this thing is the way they're talking about Star Wars and how it's a huge phenomenon and how there's all this merchandise and it's this crazy thing that's never been seen before. And seeing it in 2021. And as soon as when this ends, it says something to the effect of, yeah, we're going to be making another one. There's a new one coming out. And I'm like, holy shit, they're still making new Star Wars now.
And there's a line right at the very end. It might be the last line in it. And he's like, I think it might last forever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we lived through a time where that was not the case, where it was like, it was done. It was over. And we're getting the crumbs thrown to us with.
And there was a slim glimmer of hope that we would get 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, it was the pipe dream. That was the pipe dream. And then when that was done in 2005, it was like, well, aren't we lucky we got that? Not everyone liked it, whatever, but we got it. We got to see the whole story. And that's why that day, I'll never forget that morning in 2012 when we found out that the sale to Disney and that they were doing more.
And people complain about it. That's what baffles me.
It's insane to me.
I would rather have a world with shitty Star Wars than complain about a world with Star Wars. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah. Because even if you like 1 out of every 10 projects, that's 1 new project that you like.
Right.
That's more than you were getting before. Be grateful for it. Yeah. We could use that on every episode of this. We're not going to drive home on that point. This documentary was not a documentary. It was a TV special.
Right. But so enjoyable. And even though it's just like C-3PO saying, remember the time we were in the trash compactor? And then they just show the trash compactor scene. Even though we see a lot of scenes, they trim them down.
Yeah, they are edited.
I want to say that it's a much better pace than from Star Wars to Jedi, where they would show like full scenes where they would just cut to a scene and just play it out.
But that it amazed me in this, how they went through the making of the film linearly, like to the film.
Linearly.
There you go. I'm not going to try it.
How about chronologically?
There you go. They chronologically tracked the production of the movie, and yeah, they went through basically the entire film from start to finish, but like just picking out key things. So they're not going to talk about too much about being on the Tantive 4 or anything. It's like, bang, we were first in Tunisia, which doubled for Tatooine. Then we were in London at Elstree, which was the Death Star. And then, I mean, they don't talk about the stuff on location for Yavin, but like then we were in Yavin, then we did the dogfight. And it's only when you do that, you break it down, that you're like, wow, like the stuff that would have been like Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford, they were just in London. They didn't have to do much of the location shooting or anything like that, really, for that film. And it's
Mark
only
was
really when
the only
you
one in Tatooine.
Him and
like,
Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
And Nancy
it's
Daniels.
funny because you got to realize, like at the time, Star Wars is huge. Star Wars is massive. Everybody loves Star Wars. Everybody goes to see Star Wars as much as they can. This is the first time that they're going to be able to see Star Wars at home outside of having to go to a movie theater.
So that's it. I was thinking that. So this
is probably exciting.
This dropped in September of '77. So it's probably still running in theaters, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was pretty huge.
Yeah, it went for a long time, and then it was re-released a year later with the anniversary and everything like that. And it was the anniversary when they added it as Episode 4 in New Hope, right?
I want to say it was the re-release. Listen, I'm going to be sounding like I actually know shit, but I think Pablo Hidalgo just posted this. Okay. The Episode 4 got added, I believe, in the 1981 re-release after Empire.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's no mention of that in this, obviously, because in September of '77, this was Star Wars. It is Star Wars. That is the title of the film, is Star Wars. That is it. To the point where when they're talking about sequels, I think at one point they talk about Star Wars 2.
Right.
And they just say the sequel or sequels.
Yeah. And it's awesome listening to them talk about George Lucas talking about, and Gary Kurtz and everybody talking about how it's going to be the same characters but different adventures.
Yeah, it's not a direct, like I think it's Gary Kurtz who says it's not we don't want to make a direct sequel. It's new adventures with the same characters in the same universe. Like the Empire's still out there.
Yeah, Lucas saying the Empire's still out there, Vader's still out there. I think it's hilarious that they're debating. There's a big debate, especially in 1977. Who is Princess Leia going to end up with?
Yeah, it's the love triangle exists and is in full force. Weird. And her and Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill, both basically lean towards a Luke and Leia coupling.
She's really a chump if she goes for Han Solo.
Right.
Which is hilarious as well, because at that time, we know from reading Carrie Fisher's biography and her diaries and stuff from now, at the time, her and Harrison Ford were having their thing. They were seeing each other and having a lot of fun together. So in that, like when they're filming that interview with her in an arcade of all places.
Listen, can I tell you something?
Go for it.
Real quick. So I never thought of Princess Leia as like a sex symbol. She was always just Princess Leia to me because I was a little kid. I looked up to, these characters and she was just Princess Leia. She was, an elder or whatever.
Yeah.
But when this documentary came out and I saw it in 1995 and I see Carrie Fisher in front of arcade machines, I'm like, oh.
And she's like 19, really 20 cute at the time. And it's like, that's
probably my age.
Yeah. Right around that. Yeah.
She didn't have the buns in the hair and she just looked like a person. I'm like, oh, she's really cute.
And it's like, like now I get why everyone thinks of her as, definitely.
Right.
I completely agree with you.
But it's that image of her in front of the arcade machines that I'm always like, oh yeah, Carrie Fisher's really cute. I really like Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
So
And
that was this
Harrison Ford's
documentary.
just chilling on a yacht somewhere.
Right.
Like it's like
And
he's like, I'll do the interview, but you come to me.
Right.
He's just like, I don't know.
Or he said, I'm only going to do an interview if you get me on a boat. And someone had to go figure that out. But I love that he talks about how much fun he had on Star Wars. And
it's the most animated interview with Harrison Ford you will ever
but
see.
It's still him throwing shade at Star Wars. Like,
oh, totally.
Like he's putting it like, he's like,
we had fun. We had fun with it.
Right.
But yeah, he's like, it's all nonsense, but we were having a good time. It's like, yeah, of course you were. You were sleeping with Carrie Fisher, and you and Mark Hamill were like bros essentially at the time.
Oh, that shot of them walking with Harrison Ford's arm around both, and he's smoking.
Yeah.
The scenes
of them on the Death Star always look like when they're having the most fun. It's the shot when they run out, like out of the blast doors, all four of them, and Chewie as well, and then they like you cut to the camera crew and they're like cut, and then they all walk over and one by one they're like and
right,
and they have such a good like repertoire.
But when you watch that, it's if you see the documentary Empire of Dreams, where Lucas was absolutely miserable, they always show those same sequences. And if you look at George, while those kids are fucking around, he looks like he's like, fucking just get it done.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. And the fact that he was 24?
He was 33. He was 33 in the documentary.
Okay.
32 or 33. So he would have been probably 30 when they were shooting.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the Harrison Ford interview real quick. He mentions this and he says, I don't think it's brought up in the film, but Chewbacca is 200 years old.
Yeah.
And the thing I love about that is it's the first time that I've ever seen any evidence of Harrison Ford giving a shit about backstory or Star Wars or anything.
Yeah.
Like it's that footage or that story of people asking in Rise of Skywalker, were you a Force ghost? And he's like, I don't know what the fuck that is. You're like, that's how I think Harrison Ford is. But for him to be like,
he read the script. He knew. Yeah, he didn't just read his dialogue. He read the script.
And what's great is when you watch the movie Solo,
he finds out 200
years old.
Yep. And like they kept that all the way through all the Disney stuff, because like they talk about it in Solo where he's like, you're 100 and whatever, and it tracks perfectly so that he's 200 in A New Hope,
right? Because
I think it's when Poe it might be in it's the beginning of Rise of Skywalker where Chewie is playing Poe and Finn on the Jarek, and they say you've got 230 years experience, sort of thing. Like yeah. It tracks. They've kept his age so that he is exactly 200 at the time of A New Hope.
And that version of Harrison Ford and him talking about Chewbacca being 200 immediately made me think of how much I like Alden Ehrenreich as Solo. Like, I feel like that energy that Harrison Ford brings in that interview feels like Alden Ehrenreich in 2019 or whatever.
Yeah, 18. Yeah, that's a great shout. With him like relaxing on the boat and almost like trying to play up above where he actually is.
Yeah,
is exactly what Han Solo is doing in Solo. He's like he knows where he wants to be, what he's aspiring to be, and he's going to basically live that lifestyle, even if he hasn't really earned that lifestyle just yet.
Right. He hasn't done Raiders yet.
Yeah, he's not Harrison Ford yet. There. He's that guy from Star Wars, and oh yeah, I remember him from American Graffiti.
Right.
Which is cool that they showed that and how like that was his introduction to George Lucas and film.
Yeah. My favorite thing is that they showed Flash Gordon clips.
And a lot as well. And they showed the thing that we talked about, I think, off podcast with the video screen.
So on our Star Tours episode, if you watched all the way through past the credits, James wandered into this studio watching episode 1. The reason why I was watching that clip is because yeah, that you see that shot of Ming with the circle sort of view screen that mimics the Queen Amidala's view screen in
It's the Neomodians.
Newt Gunray's
Yeah.
ship. Yeah. But the thing is, in this documentary, they changed the sound effect. The sound effect
I was going to say
in
it's
the
slightly
original
different.
Flash Gordon is just like the one in episode 1.
Yeah.
And in this documentary, they changed the sound effect and changed the music for some reason.
That's
But guys, if you ever get a chance, watch the Flash Gordon serials. If you don't want to sit through, there's 3 of them. One's 13 chapters, one's 15 chapters, and one's 12 chapters. There's 40 total. If you don't feel like watching all 40 episodes of Flash Gordon, check out the 3rd serial, Flash Gordon Conquers the Universe. That has the most Star Wars shit in it. So
and also there's a podcast that I believe relates to that.
Well, my Patreon, I watch all. You can watch them with me. If you don't just want to sit there and watch them, I watch them live, so to speak. Got the video up on the screen, and then I'm in the corner watching with you.
There you go. That's the way to do it.
But yeah, that's on my Patreon only. I can release it to the public on my YouTube, but
keep them.
It's kind of a fun thing for my Patreon. So
yeah.
So yeah, check out the link below. This documentary is in 4:3. It's not in widescreen. And there was one scene that reminded me of so much of my time when Star Wars wasn't around and watching the VHSs.
Can I guess?
Go for it.
Is it the Banthas and the Tusken Raiders? Like, wait
for
a
the
second.
longest time. For the longest time, you get the binocular shot of the 2 Banthas, and it's 4:3. And there are 2 Banthas down there. I don't see any. Wait, Sand People. I see one of them now. You can't see that in the original pan and scan version. You needed the widescreen, and so watching this now put me in like 1985.
So the funniest thing about that is the way I first saw Star Wars was I taped off the TV version that we had, and that must have been broadcast.
All the commercial breaks.
Oh yeah, of course. But that must have been broadcast in widescreen because I remember seeing the other Tusken. And then as soon as I think it was like 1991, 92, there was a re-release over here. And that was the first time I owned one of the many VHS copies that they've had, different to those UK versions and US versions. Who knows? But it did have the CBS logo on it. I remember that. Weirdly, it was the first time I heard about CBS. And
well, for me, the CBS logo always leads into the Fox logo, like hearing that.
In the same way that the Fox logo leads into Star Wars. Yeah. But then in that, those versions that I owned, those VHS copies that I owned, were pan and scan. So they were cut. So I always was thinking, but where I know that I've seen that that Tusken. I know that I've seen that Sand Person, but where is he? And I was like, that was how I learned about like the different formatting, was through watching Star Wars in various different copies that I own.
Yeah, I never understood that Luke said, "I see one of them now." It never made sense to me until I got the widescreen version in '91.
Yeah.
So, okay, I mentioned the shot of droids breaking down.
Yep.
And they showed all the different droids. There's one shot of a Treadwell droid with many arms, but it's from the Tashi station scene. You can see Biggs talking.
Yes, it's in the background, isn't it?
Yeah, you can see Biggs talking to Luke in the background. He hears a little bit of the dialogue. But in 1977, when you're watching this documentary, what are you thinking when you see that? Because they also later have the big scene at Yavin.
Yeah, I was going to say the extended version of it where he's Red Leader's talking about flying with or seeing Luke's father fly.
Yeah.
Like that is like, if you listen closely, it's in there still.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's going to be in the same way that we all have, it's a Berenstein Bears situation, isn't it? It's where it's like, we all have these memories, and it's whether or not you remember the movie itself or watching this that you probably knew was coming on TV, had taped off the TV, and watched this over and over and over to get your fill of Star Wars. So you knew those shots, those edited versions of those scenes became the definitive versions in your mind because that's what you watched over and over and over again. And I mean, yeah, there's always stuff. That's why, like, I knew about the Jabba the Hutt scene before the special editions because I'd seen those clips.
It always bugs me in special edition, and I always notice it. And I don't know if anyone else notices this, but you will now that I bring it up. In that scene with Red Leader and Biggs and Luke, there's an edit where he cuts out the line and the guy passes across the screen. It's like to hide the edit.
Yeah.
But if you watch R2-D2 being raised in the background, when that guy passes, he starts to pass, he's here.
Yeah.
And when the guy passes, he's here. Like within it's a
frame.
huge jump cut.
Yeah.
And every time I watch like a special edition, I just stare at stare. I stare at R2 because I know what's being said for reals.
Yeah.
And I know the edit, but keep an eye on that.
And it's things like that. It's like obviously in terms of story and canon and everything, it doesn't make any sense now. But I love stuff like that. I love thinking back to when I first saw the version of that scene because it sparked my imagination about the what if of it all. Or stuff from older books that referred back to the Clone Wars and things like that. And it sparks your imagination about what happened when, or are we ever going to see a time when the guy who became Red Leader flew with or saw Anakin Skywalker fly and this amazing thing? And there's still a way.
He could have been on the Battle of Coruscant.
Exactly. There's still a way that could have made sense. He could have been.
He could have known Anakin Skywalker, but didn't know that Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader.
Exactly. You could leave that in. Like he could. I mean, he's old enough to have remembered the Clone Wars, the end of the Clone Wars, and at that point, Anakin was a hero to the galaxy. Everyone knew who Anakin Skywalker was, and
but this change was made. The additional to adding in the scene before the prequels, so
they didn't know what they were going to do.
Lucas didn't want to be like, you could be like, well, no, he's Darth Vader. You didn't fly with him.
He's Darth Vader through all of the Clone Wars, he could have turned a lot earlier, sort of thing. Like
I feel like that could have been put back in with the Blu-ray release in 2008. Like that would have been.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah. There's a few things like that. I like it a lot.
But so I have a question for you.
Hit me.
Did Lucas buy the gumball machine with Star Wars money?
I mean, he had to, right?
Unless assuming.
Did he have
maybe THX money?
I mean, I don't think
THX money for that, but
probably not THX money, but maybe American Graffiti money. It feels like it could be an American Graffiti purchase.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the Star Wars money, it was all on screen. Everything that he made from Star Wars, he put back into Empire and Jedi sort of thing.
Right.
And it's from the success of that the ranch exists.
It's just hilarious. George, where do you want us to shoot? Where do you want to sit while we shoot you? Here in front of my gumball machine.
It is really interesting seeing the people that they interview. I mean, it's Mark, Carey, Harrison, and George with a very brief Gary Kurtz.
Yeah.
But everything else is on set stuff. I think when they talk to Alec Guinness, it's very, very brief, and it's stuff that they shot on set in Tunisia. Right. It's not anything specific for this documentary. Mark looks like he's on set shooting something else. I don't know if that would have been Cadillac Summer or something.
Does it look?
I can't think of what he looked like.
Post-accident?
I don't think it looks post-accident. But he had long hair.
Yeah, and lots of makeup.
He looked like he was on set somewhere.
Yeah.
I do think that, it might be one of the last things that he filmed pre-accident. I'm not sure.
Mm.
That'd be something to look into. I'm not sure when his accident was precisely.
I thought it was during Corvette Summer.
Oh, maybe.
So maybe this is, I don't know.
Possibly. Who knows? I mean, he might have been shooting that at the time. Harrison's just chilling on a boat, Carrie's in the arcade, and George, yeah, as you say, he's by his gumball machine.
One of the things that cracked me up is I do like that they spend a lot of time on special effects. They show like the motion control cameras and stuff like that. And I think one of the more fascinating things is that they spend a long time on the chessboard.
Yeah.
And which is fine. It's a cool effect, but imagine how
it's the first time
captivated people.
Yeah.
In 1977. It was so captivating that people had to know how it was made.
Yeah. And it makes perfect sense. It's the first time we've seen like holograms like that anyway, or moving. Like obviously we see Princess Leia earlier on in the film.
Right.
But and that must have been mind-blowing to people at the time.
But this is
I feel like that
exactly effects.
It's the combination of the two. It's when you see an actor, you can probably logic it out. If you're interested in that sort of thing, you could figure it out how they may have done it. But when you see the stop motion and everything as well as that same effect, it makes it even more impressive. And what I never really put together was when they show the scene with Luke training with his lightsaber and thinking about all the elements in that one frame.
Yep. I was just going to say that. Like how much of a pain in the ass was that?
Yeah. Because that's still going on in the background. Then you've got Luke with the lightsaber.
The lightsaber's animated.
In the sort of the mid-ground. Yeah, the lightsaber is animated. And then you've got the training remote itself in the foreground. Yes. And it's like...
and then it's shooting lasers.
It's incredible. And like, you think about it, and they say how there was 365 computer or effect shots, essentially. Effect
shots, yeah.
In the film. And that, at the time, was the most in any film.
Right.
You get that in a scene in almost any movie now. Like it's ridiculous that yeah.
One of my favorite things that you always see in these documentaries is the shot of the ILM guys out in the parking lot with the trench
drive-by
sitting there, and they're driving by in the truck. And I'm just like, I want to say that's Gold Leader shot.
Yeah.
Of hitting the exhaust port.
Oh yeah, the miss. Yeah.
But I just love it. I like how fun was it for those guys to just make those models. They're all standing around watching the motion control camera going over the Death Star run, and you always see that one like explosion go after the camera's already passed.
Yeah.
And then they show the one where Luke says, I'm going in, and he's just like,
yeah, he does his strafing run on the tower sort of thing.
Yeah, and then he blasts through the explosion. They always show that shot from behind the scenes.
Got a little cook, but he's okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly which documentary it is. I think it might have been
for all of them.
Maybe no, but I mean, for this bit in particular, I think it was one of the guys who was on the first season of Mandalorian. So that Disney documentary, he was saying how when he was a kid, he was interested in the effects industry. He heard about them shooting this film Star Wars, and so he just drove down there, or his dad drove him down there, dropped him off.
It was John Knoll.
That was John Knoll. It was
John Knoll, and it was in the Rogue One documentary.
That's where I saw it. And he just literally got dropped off, and they were just like, yeah, okay, kid, come on, watch us.
Yeah.
And he just hung out with like all these stoner movie guys who were making like things blow up and filming it.
Like, how much fun. Like, where's that documentary? Where's that like ILM like Star Wars?
Well, because there's Elstree 77, which exists, which is about like the guys in Elstree, a lot of the extras and everything, filming the stuff that they filmed over here. For that.
We should probably add that to our list.
I think we should. But yeah, as you said, I want the documentary specifically about that original core ILM group.
Yeah.
That needs to get made. And I feel like it's going to take someone like John Knoll to make it.
Yeah.
Someone who's still in there, still like basically running the place now, and could have access to all the guys who are still alive who were there at the time.
I think all of them are.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not like it's a big group. There was 13 of them or something?
Yeah, something like that.
It wasn't
and
many.
I love that George, I think in the Leonard Maltin interview for I think it was the THX versions of the VHS tapes, where he mentions that a lot of these guys came from like the Pillsbury Doughboy commercials and stuff.
Oh wow! Okay.
So like the stop motion guys, like your Phil
Yeah.
Tippett's and stuff, like Dennis Muren and who's the dude running the camera all the time? Not John. John Dykstra.
Dykstra is
But
the
it's
name.
it's all those
he was
dudes.
one of them. But it's funny, isn't it? Because like you say these names, and we like I go, yep, that guy, yep, and it's like we all know them because we've all watched a ton of these documentaries.
Right.
And they are.
They've got to have tons of footage of those guys.
Of course, I mean they had cameras rolling the whole time. It seems like behind the scenes and actually filming what they did. And even if it is just showing the same stuff that we've seen in 100 other documentaries, for it to be focused on them and the interviews with them talking about it firsthand, not and then the geniuses over at ILM did their magic, and it's like I want to know the specific ins and outs of the first-hand accounts.
I want to hear more about when they were working for like a year and didn't have any shots, and George Lucas came in pissed. Like I think that's an Empire of Dreams as well, where they just like George was pissed. He came in, and we were like, "Hey, listen, we're building stuff that's never been done before."
Inventing
so like they
stuff.
have their So it's interesting to see that dynamic. It would be cool to see that. There's got to be someone out there. Let's call John Knoll. What's he doing?
Yeah, I mean nothing important, obviously.
He created Photoshop with his brother. That's nuts.
It's insane, isn't it? Like I tell this to people, like when I see people who are just like really heavily into Photoshop and really good at it, I'm just like, you know who created that, and that they just did it on a whim.
Right. His brother's name is, when I pop open Photoshop, which I use,
Still there.
I used it for this background.
There you go.
His name pops up in the credits. There's a list of people that have done that version, and I want to say John Knoll's name's still in there, but his brother Thomas Knoll is number one. He's still doing it.
It's incredible.
Meanwhile, John Knoll's making Rogue One,
and we love him for that too. Like,
right. This is the first. I think this is the first time I realized that George Lucas's dog's name was Indiana. Was from this documentary. Yeah.
Oh, okay. This was the first time you learned that fact. Yeah. It makes sense. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine he talked about his dog Indiana much before this, or had a platform to.
I'm wondering if it's from Star Wars to Jedi. There's a lot of George in that documentary, but he's not in front of the gumball machine in that one. I don't believe.
And that's also like a few years, like 4 or 5 years after this documentary. So
yeah. It's funny. It's just funny seeing everyone in their Star Wars shirts, everybody at Chinese theater, everybody like being
the same
so
clip. We mentioned it in a previous episode how it's always you always see the same, like the disco and the Chinese.
Right. That was I think it was also a Star Tours episode.
Yeah.
But it's still happening. And it baffles me that it's still happening, especially after surviving like the dark time. Like I'm a survivor, but just going through that almost 20 years of no Star Wars. It's kind of crazy that in 2021 there's people talking about it.
We're still here, and I mean more than ever, literally more than ever, and arguing about the stupidest stuff. Like that's the thing. Like not everyone is out there celebrating it and just going, holy crap, how good is this? Now it's got to the point where it's like, it's the Batman line, isn't it? It's like you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Right. If you grew up with me, like I'm 44, I'm the age of Star Wars. Everything post Return of the Jedi is bonus.
Yeah,
it's all
even for me.
Stuff.
I'm 87, so I'm the 10-year anniversary of Star Wars. But even for me, like I was born in the dark times.
Yeah,
like I'm right in it.
There would be 11 Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
in 1984, I would have been through the roof.
And also, like, no, there isn't. Don't lie to me. Oh, what, a bunch of TV movies like the Ewok movies and stuff like that? Maybe. I don't. Yeah, that's the best you could expect.
And I think that's a reason why I like those movies, those Ewok movies, so much, is because
that's what you had.
Star Wars.
That's what you had. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I Star Wars has been there since the start for me because of having a brother who is your age and a sister who's just like a couple of years younger. So they grew up with it in the same way and passed it on to me. So it's all I've ever known. I was lucky enough to not have any time before, but I've just always had it. It's always been there. So yeah, it's incredible. And I mean, it's this documentary. If you're watching this documentary to learn anything, there's better documentaries out there. Don't do it for that. But if you're watching this for a bit of entertainment, this is a purely entertaining 46, 47-minute long documentary that's just a bit of fun.
This is perfect if you love Star Wars, like the film from 1977, and you want to celebrate that film not as nostalgia, but as what it was like in 1977 to be a fan of Star Wars. Like it doesn't, it's not like
with the joy of knowing that the 3 leads had signed on to do a sequel, but who knows what that's going to be and when that's coming, because it was still being written when they did this, or it was just started being written in September of 77.
Right.
It's a time capsule. The movie is the documentary is it's an amazing time capsule.
Yeah, it's a celebration of a film. It's not really
That's exactly what it is.
C-3PO and R2-D2 didn't really teach us anything.
It's
about
it's
the movie.
No. It's a way of keeping the buzz for Star Wars alive. Like probably just as it's leaving some movie theaters and like trying to build up to a 1-year anniversary release and things like that. It's around the same sort of time that they would have been making the holiday special, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just like this would have probably been the last thing new Star Wars before the holiday special came out a few months later, literally a couple of months
the first
later.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing,
the only thing,
the only thing between this is the original Dark Times right here is this documentary. Between Star Wars and the holiday special, you had the making of Star Wars as told by C-3PO and R2-D2.
There's nothing really cringeworthy about it.
No, it's just silly. It's just silly fun.
There's something I just thought of right now that I'm going to do, and it should be up by the time this episode drops, but I think I'm going to make a shirt for our site that is there's a door in this
I know it. Yes.
And it's a black door with this weird red design. And I'm like, that's a really interesting design.
But it's so specific.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean anything. It's a really specific design. So I think I'm going to create a black shirt.
Yep.
And put that design on the chest, and that's
I love it.
And I will wear that shirt. And if anybody were to ever get it, I would.
Even at Celebration, that's one that will fly over most heads, I think, even at Celebration.
Right. So
I love it. And you can find the link to buy that there.
Right. I should probably, you will. There will be a nice, easy link to get to our merch page there.
And we don't plug it enough, but there is merch for this show. Go.
It's mostly our logo on a shirt, and I want to say there's something else. Did I do so? Oh, the salad.
There's a couple.
For those of you who are a fan of
Hardware Wars.
If you saw the pictures of me at Galaxy's Edge eating,
there's a couple of bits for Mandalorian as well. They're still up, aren't they?
I don't know. I have to check. It's been a while.
Okay.
But
that's the thing with doing this sort of stuff is things come and go.
Yeah. So I only have one more note for this documentary.
Go for it.
I guess it's just called The Making of. It's not. I don't know. It's entertainment as as told by C-3PO and R2-D2.
It's a TV special.
Yeah, is that they are talking about the stormtroopers.
Yeah,
and they show some behind the scenes of stormtroopers, and they put the helmet on a guy playing a stormtrooper, and that guy is also the guy who played Boshek.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
You could tell by the sideburns.
I was going to say the sideburns are the giveaway with Boshek.
So look down here, and I'll post it for you. There's the stormtrooper actor. There's Boshek, just like that.
And we need more Boshek. Yes. Boshek, a Star Wars story. Make it happen.
Undercover as a stormtrooper. Possibly.
That's the plot. That is the plot of the movie right there.
Maybe that's why he introduced Chewbacca to Obi-Wan.
because he's a
'Cause
rebel
he's a secret
operative.
stormtrooper.
Boshek in the Andor series, make it happen.
Anybody in any series, I feel this is my problem, and
You
my
want it,
problem
but you
with the
don't.
Bad Batch was crossover character of the week. I
We're
cannot
back
stand
again.
it.
We're back to it again.
But listen to me, Boshek. Come on, he's not going to bother anybody.
No.
We're not talking. It's not. I mean, I was fine with Walrus Man and Dr. Evazan in Rogue One because they're such minor characters. They did have speaking roles in both, and they were
They
the
just
same.
looked wrong. That was my only problem. Was Walrus
I'm fine
Man's
with
head
it.
was too big.
Nine Num's
head was
Nine
too
Num
big
looks
too.
wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
Everyone's head's too big. Disney, come on.
yeah. Disney.
They're all Funko Pops. They're not trying to be cute. They're characters. But yes to Boshek. Yes to the Tonica sisters. Yes to Snaggletooth.
Blue or red?
I feel like both.
Correct answer.
Yeah, because there's a height difference, right, between them.
Yeah, that's it.
'Cause I was gonna
That and the color.
Because I was going to say, they could just change outfits halfway through from blue to red,
Maybe he grows. Maybe he rapidly grows.
or he's got like his limbs can stretch and he can get like taller.
It is the sort of thing, isn't it, that you'd expect at some point Filoni and Favreau to put a Jawa in with like a real plasticky cape into the Mandalorian.
Moff Gideon. You seen? I think it's Moff Gideon. They have the retro figure
Yeah,
of him, and he's got the cape. I'm like,
the vinyl cape.
they figure, just get the mini rigs in. Oh, okay. So I'm good. I'm done with the documentary.
Yeah.
I think check it out if you haven't. I recommend the Don LaFontaine version over the William Conrad. William Conrad's a little intense, but there's something that came up. There's something that came up, and I added it to our list, and it's probably going to be the next episode that I choose. But there's a documentary, an hour-long BBC documentary I'd never seen, all about John Williams' music to Star Wars, and it came out while they were making Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
I watched like 10 minutes of it. I'm like, I got to stop because I'm going to watch for the show. There's a shot. I'm going to put it up here because listen, I'm not our next episode, whatever you pick is, what you pick. But I'm saying after that, my pick's already going to be this thing.
Cool.
Check this out. Look down here. There's a shot where they're filming the Battle of Hoth, and there's some sort of golf cart thing with like some sort of like kit on it that makes it look like a fucking mini rig. I've never seen it before. It's not in the movie, but it's definitely not a production vehicle. It looks like they try to make like a land speeder, but for the snow.
Interesting.
Look down here. I'll put it on a loop a couple times. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, holy shit, it's like
we are watching that.
Yeah. And then
I see, that's the thing. It's what George has always said about the mini rigs. I've always just assumed, like, I remember the mini rig in particular that I've got in my mind is the one that one. You got it. You just nailed it. You exactly nailed it. The one I was going to say that you could like push down and it flattens out a little bit. There you go.
This is the one I want on The Mandalorian.
That's the one that I could see being on The Mandalorian the most.
Yeah.
And it's that one because I just always envision it in Echo Base, just slightly off camera.
Right. Wait till you see this thing down here. I'm gonna keep.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah. Anyway, forget about 2 episodes from now. James, what are we watching in 1 week or 2 weeks? Next
2 weeks
episode.
time. I have been tossing and turning about what to pick. It's been between 2 for the last 4 weeks since I knew that I had the next one coming up.
Flip a coin on air.
I mean,
do you want to leave it up to that?
Yeah, but I don't have a coin. I will roll a dice. Odds. It is. Do I want to say odds? Okay, odds. It is Mandalorian season.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, you said one.
Even it's something else.
Oh,
We're doing Mandalorian season 1, everybody. I rolled a 1.
no, we're not. 2.
Season 2. Yeah, season 2, because we've done season 1 already.
We
Go
did
watch that
season one.
episode.
All right.
We are going to cover season 2 of Mandalorian because we talked about the making of the finale that you can watch on a previous episode, bonus episode that came out a few weeks ago. You can watch that now, and watching that behind the scenes made me really want to watch season 2 of Mandalorian again.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it since that original run. I watched every episode twice at the time, but I haven't watched it in full since. And
I rewatched that scene.
Yeah.
And it's so good.
I really, really want to rewatch it. We talked about a few of the other episodes in that episode that we talked about, and we talked about a few episodes of season 2 in our recap of season 1. So I want to just go back and cover that, get that done, so that coming into Book of Boba Fett, we are all up to date on live action TV series.
Right. Awesome. I'm excited.
So that will be in 2 weeks' time. There might be some bonus episodes in between. Who knows?
Right. We'll see. Yeah, until then, visit and subscribe. You probably already are. If you're not, subscribe at liveactionstarwars.com. Visit us on our website at liveactionsw.com and follow us at liveactionsw. So until then, may the force be with you.
Come along, R2.